Hello YouTube, it's Akrit again, back with another video from the home studio, back with another episode of Beat Review. Beat Reviews is the series where I just listen to beats that you guys have sent me, and I'm just reviewing them. That's what it is. Now, first of all, I don't claim to be an expert on any of this, but I do have this platform and I have a little bit of experience in music production and beat making. I think that's fair to say. And if you want me to listen to your beats and give them a review and share them in a video and give some feedback and criticism, you are more than welcome to send your beats to accuratebeatreview@gmail.com, and there's a chance that I'm gonna randomly pick you, you know? Honestly, I don't have a foolproof system just yet, so I'm just picking random names from the inbox. Not random emails, by the way, so please don't send me like 10 or 15 emails with the same link, because that's not gonna increase your chances of getting picked, you know? This one is sent in by someone called Mistastench. The beat is called Burn the Mini, and it's available on Bandcamp. Again, the link is in the description below. Let's listen. So immediately there's something going on with this track that I just can't not mention about the mix. I listened to this track on my headphones as well as on my AirPods, and I kind of think that I know what you're going for here. However, I also listened to it on my studio monitors as well as on a bigger Bluetooth speaker, and I think we have an overall problem with the mix here. Again, this is all very subjective, but I think this beat could benefit from being balanced kinda differently. Sure, every beat doesn't need to have big, loud drums in the forefront. Listen to MF Doom or J Dilla or Madlib for some examples of that. But in this specific case, I think we could improve the track by just changing the mix somewhat. When I listen to this beat on like speakers that can represent lower frequencies better than headphones, things just disappears in the mix. The drums becomes too weak, in my opinion. And the melody here that you also mentioned in your email that you have been struggling with a little bit, sure, it's not perfectly in tune with the sample, and that is kind of an issue, but it becomes even more of a problem when the drums doesn't take up the space that they kind of deserves in the mix. I'd say that the drums and the sample here makes a lot of sense together and it works. It just needs to be rebalanced in the mix somewhat. That's my first thing. Next up, we have another sequence that kind of opens everything up, and you take some of the sample out of there and the drums gets more space. I think that sequence works a lot better than the first one. And the added instrument here that kind of sounds like a siren, that's a cool idea and it works for this sequence. However, the next sequence with the big stuff going on, that's a little bit too much in my book. Maybe you just need to scoop out some of the lower frequencies of the sample, like the bass or the lower mid-range. Just bring that stuff down with an equalizer or lower the entire sample in the mix. I think that could help a lot. And I think that the drums here are really cool and the listener deserves to hear them, if that makes sense. Just make the drums louder. It doesn't have to be in the forefront of everything and totally in your face, but I would just love to hear more of them, especially in bigger speakers. I think it's always a good idea to listen to your track on different sets of speakers to make sure that the track translates between systems. You don't have to go crazy and buy super expensive studio monitors if you don't have any. But listen to your beat in a car or on a Bluetooth speaker or on someone else's headphones or whatever. And just make sure that the idea you had while making the track translates at least somewhat decently between different sets of speakers. I think that's a good tip for anyone who does anything in terms of music or audio production. Next up, we have a beat from another creator with a YouTube channel and such. Her name is Lil Miss Beats and the beat is called Bonky. I wanted to include this one in this episode because I think there's just a lot to learn from this one. So let's listen to the beat in different sections and let's talk about it. First we have this kind of crazy intro with this almost oriental sounding sample going straight into a drum groove that at least I really wasn't expecting for this. A nice and heavy subby 808 bass line with a little bit of distortion on it, together with a kick drum that doesn't play in the same frequency range, and that's both important and really impressive. What's next? So now she's adding this nice and lush pad sound, playing some chords on top of everything else and switching up the overall feeling of the track. Makes me more relaxed and laid back, even though the drums are still going kinda hard, so that's a nice balance right there. And then the sample gets taken out and she's adding this monophonic synth that plays together with the bass line, so that's kinda cool. A lot of stuff going on, but still not too much to be too much. Now this brand new instrument was introduced here. This wobbly electric piano that adds a little bit of a hypnotic feel and kind of strange, but in a pretty cool way. Now, is that instrument a little bit too loud in the mix? Well, it might be just by a little, but there's also a lot of automation and stuff going on that changes this instrument over time, so it's still fun to listen to and still adds a lot. Next up, the breakdown. And that breakdown right there is super important and makes a lot of difference to me. To give the listener a little bit of time and space to sit back and, process all the stuff that's been heard so far. I know that sounds kind of cheesy, but sometimes it's necessary when you have a lot of stuff going on. Just give yourself a little bit of space. That's it. There's also way more focus on the bass in the mix here, so I guess there's still a lot of automation tricks going on. That's cool. And then we're back to the beat again and everything just plays out with the stuff that we already heard before, plus a few dropouts with the drums. That's also a cool addition. So Lil Miss Beats is really good at what she does. Creating this many different melodies and synth lines and instruments that works well together isn't the easiest thing in the world. But once you have them all, it's pretty much just a matter of picking and choosing the right different elements to play together in different sections of the track. Eventually you have a final track with a lot of different variation and a lot of dynamics to it. And that's what I think Lil Miss Beats really did well here. What's a little bit funny here is that if you would have played me this track starting in like the middle of it with all the stuff going on at the same time, I would probably say that it's overly produced or too much stuff going on at the same time or just too busy to my taste. And that's not true at all. That's not what this is. Going from start to finish, everything just makes sense and the beat kind of tells a story. It all makes sense and I like this one a lot. I'm just saying that there's a lot of stuff going on. I think there's a lot to learn from this. Don't be afraid to add more stuff to your track. Sure, simplicity is key and to be able to keep stuff simple is super, super important. But this kind of opposite end of the spectrum also exists and we can all learn something from this. That's what I think. And this beat is available on Spotify, so I might just get a copyright claim for this video, but you know, she sent it in and wanted to be featured, so why not? Show her some love, write something in the comment section below if you like this one. And the last beat for today comes from a producer called Mars. The beat is called Preme, Preme, something like that. Let's listen to the first minute of this one and we'll get a feel for what it is.
Planet Mars.
Alright, so here's a beat with a real old school feel to it. We're talking about a chopped up sample with some strings and some horns and some sort of guitar and drums and a bass line, and it all just feels good. I'm not sure what you did in the beginning of this loop, but it feels like you played this chop with the guitar stuff and added a delay to it, or just played it in 16 velocity mode and you know, got the same effect like that. I do that myself a lot of the times and normally it really works fine, and it did here as well, so good job. I like this beat in general. I think the production is really cool, but I always have stuff to say, so bear with me. The drum samples you used for this are all pretty cool and they sit nicely in the mix, but there is something a bit strange going on with the snare. It sounds wet somehow to me. Not wet as in reverb, wet like water. It has a splash to it that's cool, but it's also maybe a little bit much. Maybe that could be handled with some sort of EQing or some filtering. I don't know. And the overall sound quality of the beat, it sounds kind of loud to me. Maybe there's just a lot of compression going on and it's fine for this genre, but if you were to make something that's a little bit less energetic, maybe this type of processing wouldn't work. But for this, I think it kind of does. I also really like the rhythm of this one. Sometimes you just don't have to be more complicated than this. It takes a specific type of skill set to know whenever to hold back and make something nice and simple, and when to go crazy with the rhythm and start adding stuff left and right. But for a straight up beat like this, straight up drums just works 9 times out of 10. What can I say? Now the bass line on this one is played at this really low register and makes the entire bass frequency kind of rumble in a cool way, I guess. But maybe it could benefit from being layered up with another subby synth bass that just provides more deepness and lower frequencies, and the bass sound you have could still be in the mix but lower in volume, and basically just provide the tone that the sound gives, because that's cool. But maybe the lower frequencies could be balanced with another sound. I'm not sure, that's just an idea. To me, it sounds like this beat is kind of made with a rapper in mind. And if that's the case, that's the case. But if not, if you want this track to stand up and work as an instrumental, maybe you should consider trying to switch it up a little bit, somewhere in the track. Maybe just add a filter on the sample and just take some stuff out of it. That could add to the dynamics of the track, but overall, I think this is a really cool beat. Honestly, this is exactly the type of beat that I've made hundreds or even thousands of before starting this channel or becoming an adult or whatever. A chopped up sample, some heavy drums and a bass line. Normally that's all you need to be able to create a beat. That's what you did here. I appreciate that. Well, that's it for this little episode. Thanks a lot for watching, and thanks to everyone who sent beats my way to be featured in this. If you make music yourself and you want to be featured in a future episode like this, send your beats to accuratebeatreview@gmail.com and there's a chance to get picked for the next episode. So, thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Until then, yeah.